It's a huge business. The UN, I believe, calculates the amount of money in the sex trafficking industry is at about $32 billion. I don't know how they calculate that figure, but I do know that there's a lot of money changing hands. For instance, in the main red light district in the city of Calcutta, conservative estimates are that there are 10,000 sex workers operating in just this one very small geographic area.
We had a case in Cambodia where we learned from the brothel owner that he was paying off a corrupt policeman $500 a month from each of 5 brothels, and several of those brothels had children in them. If you think about that for just a few minutes, look at the money that man is making, that he can, out of his profits, pay protection money to the tune of $2,500 a month in a poor country. And it says to you why people are in this trade. They're in it for greed. But they're also in this trade because they can be. And countries where laws are enforced and where police find those people who are flogging the bodies of children to the public, they stop it.
The basic way that we operate is the same everywhere. So we will have an investigative team, and their job is to work with local law enforcement to gather evidence of crimes of commercial sexual exploitation. So they will gather that evidence over a period of time. When that evidence is ready, they, along with local law enforcement and our legal staff, will go to the people in charge and ask them to do a rescue operation.
We've seen the ripple effect of good police work. You don't have to find every one of those 2 million, or maybe it's 3, or maybe it's 1. You don't have to find every perpetrator and get them in handcuffs. You don't have to literally get get police to rescue every child. What happens when you do enough cases in an area is that it ripples fast. If enough brothel owners see that, oh, sell a kid, go to jail, all of a sudden those kids become a liability instead of a cash cow.
Again, what we have seen is that sex trafficking, especially the trafficking of minors, is going to fester when the justice system is not addressing that. So why is that? Well, because its greatest strength, of course, is that it's a business, but its greatest weakness is also that it's a business. So what a justice system is really trying to do is to recalculate the cost to the business owner. So these are businessmen or businesswomen, and they're there to make a profit. And to do so costs them certain things. What it does not cost them when the justice system is not working is the potential to go to jail. But when the justice system works, then they have to calculate, okay, well, I can make X amount of money this year doing this by trafficking these little girls, but I also might go to jail for the rest of my life. I was in India working on anti-slavery work, where we knew for a fact that the numbers of slaves in India were in the millions.
The image of a grown man paying to have sex with somebody who's the size of my daughter, or your daughter, or your little sister, or your granddaughter, was just simply unbearable. So I guess we could start by saying the idea that that would just be magnified many thousands of times over is more unbearable.
My greatest fear, if the trafficking of minors doesn't get addressed, is that there will be tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of little girls who are going to be raped for profit every single day. And that's just unnecessary and utterly unacceptable.
What I worry about is that the paying to have sex with women and paying to have sex with ever younger women and children, if that becomes normative, it becomes sort of accepted. It's not very good, but, well, gee, she's 15. I think that if the idea of paying for sex with children, and by children I mean anybody under 18, I'm not just talking about 4-year-olds. I'm talking about 16-year-olds. They are children under the law, and they are children in fact. I know because I have one. And if that becomes somehow normative, because it's so common and we see it everywhere unchecked, and if people to create a comfort zone so that they can live with that reality, whether you're a Filipino or whether you're an American or whether you're an Indian or whether you're a Cambodian, then I think we are so degraded as people, and women are so degraded, that climbing out from that abyss just gets harder and harder. Because once things become normative and in some way acceptable, then the urgency to stop it goes away.
I was 17 when I was forced into the brothel. While I was in the brothel, there were many, many young girls. Most were 11 to 15, but some were much younger. I remember looking into a back room and seeing a little girl that was probably 6 years old. I think of her face on many days. I think of many of their faces. No one should be forced to do this work, and really not a child. I remember one story more than others. I can't forget it. One day, a mother brought her daughter into the brothel. She was probably 14. Several men came into the room and started offering money for her. The mother listened. After a little time, the mother was offered the amount of rupees she was asking and sold the girl. She kissed her daughter on the forehead and left. The mother looked sad and she was crying, but she still just left the brothel. Like me, the girl was doing what she thought her family needed her to do. I just stood there and watched this happening. There was nothing I could do. She was very beautiful and looked so nice. I never saw this girl again. I remember this story and girl very well. Another girl I became friends spent many years in the brothel with me. I remember the first day I met her because she was covered in cigarette burns. Her arms, legs, and face had them. She had burns all over her body. I loved her very much. She was my friend. She had the most beautiful soul. She acted like she had not been through all of the pain her body said. We prayed with and for each other every night. One day, I woke up and she was no longer in the brothel. I was very sad. I often wonder where she is. I pray that she is safe and happy. I know she will do amazing things in life if given the chance. There are many women in these places that would do amazing things if allowed. If we teach them they are special, they will be special. If I were able to tell young girls one thing, it would be to love yourself. India girls and all other girls, just love yourself. Love yourself like God does. We are all special enough to be great. God makes this clear to us every day. We can let no man or anyone else tell us we are less than great. I thank God so much for letting me understand my worth. I know now that I can do anything. We all can.
The basic way that we operate is the same everywhere. So we will have a team, an investigative team, and their job is to work with local law enforcement to gather evidence of crimes of commercial sexual exploitation. So they will gather that evidence over a period of time. When that evidence is ready, they, along with local law enforcement and our legal staff, will go to the people in charge and ask them to do a rescue operation. For many years, we were operating in the city of Calcutta very unsuccessfully. We came there and we intended to replicate a model that we had established in the city of Mumbai, and that just didn't work in Calcutta because the Calcutta is a completely different culture than Mumbai, and so the things that worked in Mumbai didn't work in Calcutta, and then we had some leadership issues on our own team, and we had some difficulties with police and government relationships, frankly, because they didn't know who we were and had no trust for us. And then we couldn't figure out actually how to do investigations in these very difficult, challenging areas. And so for years, we spun our wheels, and it was very much like hitting our head against a brick wall, hoping that the wall would break. Now, each time we hit our head against that brick wall, we learned a little bit more, but we still couldn't get the cases to move. And so in 2008, after 2.5 years of operations, still we're rescuing approximately 10 people a year, which is way below what we wanted to do. And we received a referral of a case involving a large number of girls being trafficked from Nepal through Calcutta, and then eventually throughout the rest of India. And so we investigated that case and worked very closely with an elite state police unit that we had never worked with before, who reached out to us and expressed their eagerness to work with us. And as the operation moved forward, I kept thinking, I'm not sure this is going to work. And but it did. And so our team, working with that state police, ended up going into that brothel, rescuing all the girls inside. There were 19 little girls who had been trafficked from Nepal. And the reason that case stands out for me is because it was our breakthrough moment in Calcutta, and since then we've been very successful. But also, those 19 girls all were eager for rescue. Now, that may not sound surprising, but in commercial sex cases, that's actually very, very rare, because normally the girls have given up all hope, and so when the police come in to do the rescue, they're very, very hostile. And it's not until later, after they've been in an aftercare facility for some time, that they flip and decide that they actually wanted the freedom. But these girls, the situation had been so brutal inside, these girls were jumping into the arms of the police officers and our staff, begging for rescue. And today those girls have all been repatriated home and are doing quite well, and their owners have been prosecuted successfully. Failed rescue attempts, well, those happen fairly regularly. The real answer is that you just have to keep going, because, and there's sort of a value at IJM that we will not stop until it's done. And so our teams, there's just no doubt when the rescue attempt fails, there's no doubt that we are going to continue to move forward. The only doubt is how we're going to do that. And then at the same time, our teams work very hard to create an atmosphere, to create a very real atmosphere of joy and laughter and fun, because anybody can look at this work and be sad all the time. And that doesn't work. Like, you cannot succeed if you are miserable all the time because of all the suffering you see around you. And so I remember a time in Calcutta, I was with the team, and an operation had failed, I think 3 times. And then while I was there, we were supposed to go forward, and we had gotten everything in place to do it. And within minutes of the team leaving, we received word from the surveillance team that everyone had cleared out of the brothel and run away. So it was the 4th failure. And I remember thinking, I don't want to go to work tomorrow. These people are going to be, my team is going to be miserable. And they weren't. They were planning the next operation, and they were crying, but they were also laughing and joking and ready to move forward. Often governments do not prioritize the trafficking of minors as a major problem until they get significant pressure from either the public or the outside to change the way that they're responding to human trafficking.
And they change their behaviors. And in our Cebu office, we took a baseline sampling of how many minors there were in the brothels in this area, which is sort of a sex trafficking and sex tourism magnet. And it went down very considerably, by about 79%, the measurements showed, when we worked with the police over a 3-year period. And we didn't have to arrest every potential trafficker or every brothel owner or every pimp who's ever laid a hand on a child. What we did was arrest about 100 of them and with the police, and rescued about 300 kids, and the word spread quickly. And that's exciting to us because it means that it's not perfect, and it doesn't mean there's no more sex trafficking in Cebu either. There's lots more work to be done.
If you're in doubt, just go ahead and call the hotline. If we assess the situation and we think another resource other than us would be the better one, we'll recommend that to you, and we'll help you connect with the right resource to help whatever the situation is. But whenever you're in doubt, just go ahead and call.
Again, what we have seen is that sex trafficking, especially the trafficking of minors, is going to fester when the justice system is not addressing that. So why is that? Well, because its greatest strength, of course, is that it's a business, but its greatest weakness is also that it's a business. So what a justice system is really trying to do is to recalculate the cost to the business owner. So these are businessmen or businesswomen, and they're there to make a profit. And to do so costs them certain things. What it does not cost them when the justice system is not working is the potential to go to jail. But when the justice system works, then they have to calculate, okay, well, I can make X amount of money this year doing this, by trafficking these little girls, but I also might go to jail for the rest of my life. Well, internationally, a major factor to make the girls vulnerable is poverty. And so this is very interesting, right? So why are they vulnerable? They're vulnerable because they're poor. And when they're poor, the only way they have access to justice is if the public justice system is functioning. The rich will have ways of protecting themselves. So for instance, when I lived in India, my computer was stolen. And I called the police, and the police found out that I was an expatriate. They found out what I did, and within minutes, 10 officers were at my house, and they were interviewing all of my neighbors, and they asked me if they wanted to search every single neighbor's house to find my computer. And by that night, my computer was found. But the poor do not have that access to justice when the system is not working. So internationally, people are poor and they don't, and their justice system isn't functioning, so they don't have access to it. And that's what causes trafficking to flourish in places like India, like Cambodia, like the Philippines. These are problems that can be solved if people will engage, and people will engage. So I'm very, very hopeful. And so I would say what compels me is a hope for change.